Hi, welcome to Ted's Thoughts. Okay, I want to give you a history lesson on where we are today. And this is probably going to take more than 3 minutes, so I've expanded it to the 10-minute mark. Because it's very important you understand what's happening, because the people who are giving the rhetoric about the LGBT trans and all the stuff that's happening are way off base. Okay, so let's start. Back just after World War II, or prior to World War II, there were no such things as teenagers. Teenageism didn't happen. So what it was you were 10, 11, 12, you went to work, you got married at an early age, and that was it. A lot of people didn't even go to college or university. After World War II, then people who came from World War II, the baby boomers were born, myself, a whole bunch of us, we created, or it was created, the teenage movement. So in the 50s and 60s, remember teenage rock, remember Woodstock, remember all the stuff that was happening, the long hair, the pot, the LSD, everything was happening at that point. So the teenager became something that all the adults at that time had to deal with. Well, now we teenagers are now the baby boomers who have had teenagers, grandchildren, etc., etc. And what happened when I was growing up in the 50s and 60s, there was only a consideration for two genders. There were male and female. You were either a boy or a girl. You either wore blue or you wore pink. Anybody who decided to cross that were vilified back in the 50s and 60s. Even though that was the rebellion of the hippie movement, and a lot of people were wearing really crazy different stuff, and the adults at that time were freaking out as well. So we move forward. Now, LGBT was against the law until 1969, until Trudeau made laws, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, and a lot of the states and everything started legalizing the fact that this wasn't a choice, it wasn't something that was perverted, it was something that was innately who the people were. And so all of a sudden, that movement started going. And then Stonewall happened in 1969, which was a riot in New York, which created the gay rights movement. Okay, so we're clear. Things started progressing. Then all of a sudden, gay marriage, a whole bunch of other things occurred as far as healthcare, everything else is concerned, for the equality of people who were innately born the way they were. Now let's move again a little more forward. So what happened is, now that there's more education and people are feeling more comfortable with themselves, instead of suicide rate going up, instead of people hiding all their lives and whenever they could go away on vacation would dress like a woman or dress like a man, those things started becoming more mainstream as being more acceptable. Now in Canada, as opposed to the United States, and that's where the problem is, it started in the United States, in Florida, the Trump movement, all of that, to where we were starting to vilify the natural evolution of society, that were accepting people who didn't fit into those two categories of male or female, who wanted to express themselves in a different way, whether it was partly male, partly female, or not male or female at all, just to be who they thought and believed they should be. Okay, we clear? So now that movement where people are being more comfortable doing the stuff that they want to do and be the person they want to be is not harming anybody else. They are just expressing who they are. All of a sudden, drag and trans and that became something to vilify, and talking about pedophilia and all that. That's all baloney. It's all crap. Because that's not what it's about. It's a red flag by some movements to get the people angry at somebody else so they can get them inside their tent. And that's what it's all about. It's about creating the other to get people inside their tent. Now, again, when I was growing up in the 50s and 60s, women who dressed like men, or were, we called them tomboys, right? Well, it's proven that those tomboys were actually girls and women who thought and believed they were boys and men. No, they hid. They just dressed a little more like men and, had short hair and played on all the teams and all that stuff. And nobody ever saying, oh, that's a tomboy. Oh, she doesn't like dresses. Now what's happening, because society has moved more forward, then what's happening is they're saying, wait a minute, no, I wasn't just a tomboy. I want to be a boy. Everything was fine up until this last year or so, when all of a sudden the groups, whether it's the Trumper GOP, whether it's MAGA, whether it's the fundamentalist Christian movement who were losing people to secularism, decided, okay, we need another target. We need an other. We need to start vilifying a group of innocent people in order to create havoc, to get our people to come on our side, donate money to us, come back to our churches, and do all that stuff. So that's the history of what's going on right now. I hope that you will pass this on. I hope that you will share this as much as you can, because we need the 98% to stand up to the 2% who are creating this stuff, because young people's lives are at stake. People who were killing themselves because they couldn't express who they were, who they believed they were, who they were innately born who they were killing themselves. We were come to a place where now they were being accepted by their families, accepted by their peers, and now all of a sudden, bang, we have to go backwards. That's wrong, people. No one is trying to groom your children. These are people who simply want to be themselves. I know, for example, if I wanted to wear a dress right now, I'm not talking about drag, I just feel like putting a skirt on, I'd be vilified. Yet, a woman can wear pants, cut her hair short, and it's like, oh, that's okay. I wrote a paper many years ago called The Fear of the Feminization of the Male. That's what's going on right now. We're not talking a lot about women dressing like men. We're talking about men who dress like women. So this is all red flag. It's all BS. And I need the sane people. We need the sane people in both Canada and the United States to stand up against this horrific vilification of very vulnerable people who just simply want to live their lives in peace. My friends, the journey's simple. We're complicating it, and people are dying because of it. Stand up and do something against these people who are looking just to find the other so they can put more money in their coffers and keep the people in their ranks. Pass this on. It's important.